Hi everyone, and welcome to our Women in Science event. My name is Christina Kirkolova. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the University Relations Director at Project Pulse Winnipeg. Project Pulse Winnipeg is a youth-led organization which provides high school students with insight about the fields of health sciences. In previous years, we have done this through a day-long conference. However, due to the pandemic, we have switched to an online platform where we continue to provide students with a variety of resources such as this panel. At Project Pulse, we aim to promote inclusivity and diversity in the field of science. And this is why today we want to bring you the powerful journeys of women in science. Today we'll hear from three amazing university students. We have Mayoni, Dhriti, and Amanda. And without further ado, let's dive into the questions. All right. Our first question is, what studies are you pursuing?
I can start. So I'm Dhriti, and I'm currently studying biology at the University of Winnipeg. I am considering to minor in chemistry, but I'm still thinking about that decision. So let's see about that.
Yeah, and I'm Amanda. So I'm studying science. I'm in medicine at the University of Manitoba. And before that, I did a biology degree with a minor in rhetoric and communications at the University of Winnipeg.
So I'm currently taking biology, and it's a 3-year course. I'm an undergraduate.
Very cool, thank you. Perfect. Our next question is, did you have any hesitations before you entered your field of study? And then what made you realize that you wanted to pursue your field?
I did have a few hesitations because I want to pursue medicine after I graduate. So I just wanted to find the best pre-med major that I could get into. But then I realized that there was no best pre-med major. It just depended on my passion, whatever I liked studying. And since childhood, I was always curious about how living organisms worked. And I just really found biology fun. So then I decided about pursuing a major in biology. So yeah.
Yeah, I definitely had some hesitations about going into medicine. I think that everybody should really consider it seriously because it's a pretty big commitment and you make a lot of sacrifices and it's a long, very long period of schooling. But one of the biggest things that made the decision for me to go into medicine was the fact that when I thought about my future and what I was going to do with my life, the only thing that made me really excited and really passionate was the thought of being a doctor, being in medicine, and being able to sort of help people in that way and also pursue my love of science. So as kind of intimidating a field as it is, it sort of felt like the only option for me.
So honestly, there are two things that were associated with my study of biology. One was that this is something that I always wonder about, when I see plants or animals or how everything works, how living beings work. We do know a lot about, how devices work, but, it's always something that fascinated me, how our bodies work, how our brains work, which is like a very complicated process. So
That's
that
right.
was so that was one thing that kind of was brought my attention, and I was like, this is something that I'm interested in. And moreover, while I am an international student, I originally belong from India, and so I mean, especially from my province, my state, people usually do not come abroad that often, especially parents are more hesitant to send their daughters along. So it was definitely a big thing from my mother's side and my family's side that they were able to send me outside abroad. And especially there are especially from my province, there are very less people. So it's a very big thing that we do not know anyone in Manitoba. And I do have an uncle, but he's kind of in Ontario. So it has been the biggest decision. And considering that, in India, they may not usually allowed to go outside of their houses to get groceries or something like that, sending their daughter to a foreign country, to a foreign land, is such a big step, right?
Wow. Yes, you're right. That is a very big step. And I guess your parents are very proud of you for taking on this challenge.
Yeah, wow, thank you. That's really inspiring. Thanks. All right, our next question is, what do you wish you had known before pursuing your field?
I wish I would have known that the hours I spent studying in high school would not equate to the hours I need to study at the university. Because I remember in my first semester, I did take it a bit lightly, and I felt that I was burdened with a lot of assignments and a lot of content to cover, and I did feel overwhelmed. But I think that over time we do fit into the university schedule, and it does get better after the first semester. So I should definitely not lose hope and get demotivated. So yeah, that's really important, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point to mention, is that it is, it definitely ramps up from high school, and that learning curve from high school to first year is definitely a bit of a jump, but I think it does get easier. I think the biggest thing for me that I sort of wish I would have known before I started taking this path was there isn't necessarily one right path to medicine. I think a lot of people have this idea that you sort of go and do a 3 or 4 year bio or biochemistry degree, and then you write your MCAT and go get into medicine. And there's so many different paths and different ways to sort of pursue what you're passionate about and still get to medicine if you want to. The people that are in my class they have such diverse backgrounds. So, I think that if I had known that before getting into it, I maybe would have pursued some different interests rather than just going kind of full on science.
Actually, I feel that, I wish I would have known that, the COVID situation would happen right now, because, honestly, the thing, like, I personally loved studying biology while I was in the university. But, especially when you talk about labs, it's something that, you need practical experiences. You actually know what, everything looks like, everything feels like. And that's a very important part of sciences, especially when it comes to doing the experiment part. So that has been a little disappointment. So that is something that I wish I have known, so I could have prepared myself mentally a little more.
Now, you said you're in third year. Did you get any time at the university before COVID or no?
Yes, I did. I did. I was able, I was fortunate enough that I studied for almost a year.
Okay, yeah. At least you had a little bit of time, but I can see how it's very disappointing, right, for most of your educational journey to be online. So,
What view did you have of your field when you were younger?
I view that my field would just include animals and plants. That's it. And I didn't know a lot of human aspect, especially when I was in grade 6th and 7th, because at school we weren't taught a lot about humans. It was always living organisms, prokaryotes, eukaryotes. So I always questioned my parents that when am I going to get onto the human part of it? And even right now, I think at the university, a lot of my courses are about organisms and not human biology. So I actually thought that maybe I should have taken something related to human biology instead of just biology as a major. But I guess that's okay as well. So I think that's what I was unsure about, and yeah, that didn't go well, definitely.
Yeah, I think that my view when I was younger of medicine, I don't really have any doctors in my family, so I didn't have that close connection to what life as a doctor is really like. So a lot of what I knew about medicine was either my interactions with my doctors or like Grey's Anatomy and that kind of thing, which is not particularly accurate as to what medicine was. But you sort of think of it as this big, like exciting, action-packed thing where you're saving lives all the time, which it isn't. And it would be kind of exhausting if it was that all the time. And I think what I didn't necessarily realize was such a big part of medicine is just sort of sitting with people and hearing their stories and talking to them and understanding their lives. And that's now one of my favorite parts of it, which is kind of interesting considering I didn't realize how big a part that was when I was younger.
Honestly, before coming to Canada, even the only perspective I had and the only perspective I was given, I would be like, that's the better word I'd say, that, taking biology is equivalent to becoming a doctor. If you do not do that, there's nothing else other than that. But, when I started studying, when I, started uh, reading about the researches of my own professors, it was something that made me more interested to know. And this is something that I'm still considering, like, research is such a great opportunity.
Yeah, very neat to hear how like your idea of it is different from what it actually is. Very interesting. Another question we have is, have you experienced any obstacles in your field as of being a female?
I have, because when I was in my country, I remember people seeing that, girls are meant to study biology and physics is not really for you. And I had taken physics in my 11th and 12th grade, and I wasn't really good at it either. So I used to get really demotivated when people used to say that. And I knew that I had to study physics as a course at the university as well, because it's a prerequisite at some med universities. So I feel that I don't know why people do assume that girls are meant to study only biology and are meant to just get into fields which incorporate nurturing, like nursing and being a doctor. I don't think that's completely true. I think girls really make good engineers and aeronautical scientists as well. So I wish society would start looking at that differently.
Yeah, I've been lucky in that I haven't faced a ton of barriers in going into medicine. I think that in terms of science, like fields in science, medicine is having a lot more women in it now, which is awesome. But there is still definitely that perception that even within medicine, if you're going into medicine as a woman, you're going to go into nursing. If you're going in as a man, you're going to go to be a doctor, right? Nursing is lovely and I think it's a really awesome field, but to have that assumption that I'm going into one area that fits more with my gender identity, it gets a little bit frustrating. But yeah, thankfully I haven't had a ton in the way of barriers, and I think that U of M is really good, and the fact that its admission process focuses a lot on diversity, not just in terms of gender, but a lot of different areas. So yeah, that was helpful for me.
I mean, as a female, as an international student, as a person of color, there are so many things that, that, and like, you, when you come to a new country and, you're scared and you're like little bit, uh, unsure of things, right? You question everything that, if you're, whatever you're doing, if that's going to pay you off, if that's going to, like, there's always a little pressure on you that, you have to perform, and you have to, provide that thing that, you are at least, if not more, at least you're equivalent to, men in the society. Fortunately, I never experienced any discrimination, which is such a big thing, and I'm very, very grateful to, especially to Canada, that, there's people are always very welcoming and very genuine. So that's one thing that I really appreciate.
Another question we have is, do you know of any discrimination that occurs in your career field, which I guess we kind of touched upon, but if you wanted to kind of go into that deeper, or you had anything to add?
Well, luckily, I haven't really discriminated against yet, but I hope that doesn't happen in the future because I'm not really working as of now. I'm just doing a few part-time jobs and I haven't really faced anything there. So let's hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I in being in the hospital and working with some doctors, I've definitely noticed that sometimes certain preceptors will expect less of me than my male colleagues, or they won't necessarily ask me questions, they'll ask my male colleagues instead. I've also had a number of experiences in the hospital, walking around with a male doctor and some male colleagues, and we're all wearing the same white coat, but I'm still the nurse. So it's getting a lot better. It's a lot better than it used to be in medicine, but it's still definitely present. I think that having a lot more women in medicine will make that better. But it's definitely there still.
Have you ever felt discouraged to pursue your field?
Yeah, I think the only time I was discouraged to pursue this was when I was a bit at the point of a burnout, and I felt like, oh, maybe this isn't for me. If I'm not able to keep up, it isn't for me because I'm not able to score well. So yeah, but over the span of this year, I realized that that's now how I should think, and I should just keep on doing what I'm doing in the best way possible, and things would definitely become better by the end. Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely also had times of being kind of discouraged. Probably the biggest one was I was rejected from medicine the first time that I applied. It took me 2 tries to get in. And, the vast majority of my colleagues also did not get in on their first try, but it's a very big rejection to take, and it makes you kind of second guess whether you're cut out for it, whether you're smart enough, or whatever. So that was definitely a moment that I was quite discouraged. And then, within medicine, there's always times that just make you doubt yourself and make you feel like you can't do it, because it's really hard. It's very intense and very we talk about imposter syndrome. The imposter syndrome is really challenging in medicine sometimes. But I think for me, just having a strong support network that reminds me that I'm a smart individual and I'm capable, that's been really important for me to just sort of keep pushing forward.
Do you see diversity in your field right now?
In my program, honestly, I've seen that the vast majority is girls. Even in my labs, I remember we were a group of 30 students with only 2 male students, and the rest everyone was girl. So yeah, I don't think there's a lot of majority of men in the field of biology, but I hope that there was. I mean, I hope that there was more diversity in biology as well. But I guess that's how the situation is these days.
Yeah, and like you said, I had touched on this a little bit earlier, but it's interesting to see the shift. Even in the school, like in the Brody Center, they have pictures of every medical graduating class, and I was looking at them today, and you can kind of see, it's basically entirely white men when you go back 50, 60 years. And then as you progress, things start looking a lot more diverse, and it kind of represents the population that we're serving, which is the ideal. And now I look at my class and we're about 50-50 in terms of men and women. There's a non-binary person in my class. I think there's 4 non-binary people in the class below me. There's lots of 2S LGBTQ plus students. There's a lot of racial diversity, a lot of people who weren't born in Canada and immigrated here. And we also have the Indigenous applicant stream for medicine. So there's quite a few Indigenous people in my class and the classes around me as well. So it's really exciting to me to now look at my colleagues, and this cohort of people that I'm with looks like Manitoba. It looks like the population of people that we're going to be serving. And I think that's awesome. I'm really happy to be a part of it.
Yes, lately I have been most of my when I get to meet our student groups, I see women, I see from every part of the world, and not only women, people from all sides of the world, even people from LGBTQ community has representation here. So that is something that makes me feel very happy and very diverse. And honestly, everyone brings something to the table. So when that happens, you have a more wide, your horizons widen.
How do you think we can promote inclusivity in science?
I think a really good way to have that is by going to high schools and discussing about various science topics. Like I volunteer for a lot of fields where we go to high school students and we conduct various experiments. So there are a lot of students that come up and ask so many different questions, and that actually encourage their curiosity. And I think that that makes a lot of students decide on going into science after graduating from high school. In fact, even one of the organization groups I work with is Let's Talk Science. So they also include students from grade 1 and 3. So I think at a really younger age, they're taught how interesting science can be and that it's not that intimidating that it might seem at first. So I think that those are really nice ways to include more and more people by giving them knowledge about science as a field.
Yeah, I agree with you for sure. And I think organizations like Let's Talk Science and like Project Pulse are really awesome in that, getting young people and especially young women interested in science and just thinking about it as an option from a young age is really important, because oftentimes society doesn't necessarily tell you that science is an option for you when you're a girl. You're sort of pushed into careers that are seen as more feminine or more sort of suited to your gender. So having this where girls are sort of exposed to women in science at an early age, I think is really important. And then also having admissions criteria or hiring criteria that really works to, break down barriers for women and gender diverse people. So, at the University of Manitoba, they really work hard to increase the diversity in their classes coming in. And I don't know exactly if the same criteria is in place for other, like grad programs or whatever. But I think that that's really important to make sure that people have the ability to sort of get interested in it from a young age, and then that there aren't as many barriers for them when they're actually getting to the point of applying to those programs.
I feel that inclusivity and is like, I think the most important thing is that we have to learn how to not label women. Not only women, like I'd say that, we do not have to label anyone here. That, this is this, like the, or even like, like I said, every in our society, that's the very unfortunate part, that we label everything. Like biology is labeled with medicine. Women are labeled with, doing household chores. So I think, and men are supposed to be the breadwinners, and they have to, do the innovations and run the world. So I think if we just not label people and label things, I think things would be a lot more easier. If someone has the interest in biology, they can explore every single corner of the bio, like they can explore everything, including marine biology or botany or anything. They can, like, there's a wide variety. And even when it comes to women, if you do not label women, they people, like, women and men, they can do a lot better than what they're already doing.
I do want to thank you so much for your amazing answers. And I really want to say it's people like you that are making change in our scientific community today, both with just, just being in the scientific community, but also promoting all this inclusivity and diversity and sharing your story. So I really want to thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.